Hey, good day there. Welcome to another episode of the Typewriter video series. Today's episode was unplanned. I had intended to cover another one of the typewriters in my collection like I've been doing for the last month or so. But I made a trip down to a local thrift store this morning, a store that I haven't been to in a long time, and look at what I found for $7.95. It is a Facit, Swedish-made Facit 1620 typewriter. So I have not done anything with this typewriter except I opened up the case, I looked at it, I did the basic checks for functionality. The typewriter is very dirty, it's going to need to be a lot of degreasing and everything, but let's take it out to the workbench and take a look at it, shall we? Well, here we are out in my cluttered garage workshop, and this is the Facit, $7.99, so it's kind of a plastic beige shell type of case. It comes open. It's sort of very much a clamshell. Even the handle is split into two halves. This is the typewriter. It came with two of the original styrofoam packing pieces to protect the carriage. And also the back, the top of the lid has these two dense foam pieces that keeps the ribbon cover apparently nice and secure. So those pieces of foam right there. So I'm going to remove the typewriter from its case here, and then we'll take a look at it. Okay, here it is. It is a beige and brown typewriter. The case, the body panels are all metal. So it looks like maybe cast aluminum, perhaps. So we'll take this ribbon cover off just temporarily. So the keys are plastic, obviously. The carriage panels are metal. It looks like the platen knobs are some kind of a high density plastic, and it looks very dirty down in here in the segment. So this is a segment shift typewriter, and I had to go onto the internet and look at Dr. Polt's website, and I found an online PDF manual for this typewriter because some of the features of it are a little bit different than what I'm used to. So one of the notable things is this lever right here. It pulls up and sort of latches forward or backward like that somehow, but it functions as a carriage lock. You pull it up and then you move the carriage into the middle and it'll lock the carriage for shipment, and then you push it down to release the carriage. I noted this release lever for the platen. The little arm is bent forward at a 45-degree angle. From the manual, it looks like it should be straight across, so I can probably straighten that out. I also noticed that this paper bale appears to be, this side of it is a little higher than that side, so maybe it got slightly bent, which might be related to how this got bent as well. So looks like I'll be able to fix those problems pretty easily. Looking at it, it looks actually like this angle here is less than 90 degrees, like this thing got pushed over to the left, and so maybe if I there may be some kind of brackets here that need to be adjusted, but it looks like this roller is gripping the platen harder than this roller. And speaking of the platen, it has this nice white powdery layer of debris on it that we'll have to clean off. That appears to be common to a lot of typewriters. Then the ribbon actually appears to have a little bit of ink in it. I did a quick inking test, and it does have an imprint. I'll show you that in a minute. And so, yes, it types. Now, there's one thing unique about this typewriter from my perspective is it has a tab lever on the bottom here that if you pull it, push it back, it sets preset tabs every 10 spaces. But on the left side is a manual tab lever where you can set tabs individually to any space you want. So you either activate the preset tabs or you deactivate those and set the manual tabs. So there's two different tab systems. There's a touch control under the ribbon panel. I did notice there's a slight degree of difference operating it from low to high, but I'm sure we're going to need to do some degreasing to clean that up a little bit more. The ribbon spools has a little spring-loaded arm that's very similar to the Hermes typewriters that keeps the ribbon pushed against the spool. And it's a modern keyboard, so it has a number 1 and an exclamation mark, and it's an American-style keyboard. So I'm going to go clean this up a little bit and see what we get. From what I've been able to read about these typewriters, they're actually fairly well regarded as a pretty high quality typewriter, which I'm excited about for getting it for $8. So before I do any additional work on this machine, I did want to show you the initial type testing. So it appears like it is a pica size, roughly 10 characters per inch. It is a really nice style of typeface. This is the uppercase, lowercase alignment test, uppercase, lowercase L's, and from both the left and right buttons on the carriage. And it looks like everything is lined up nicely there. This is just the lowercase m. So everything looks really well aligned on the line here. I'm impressed. This is a sample of all the characters, lowercase here, uppercase there. And it's a really nice type style. It looks like the type slugs are in really good shape. Obviously it needs a new ribbon. But I'm very excited about it, getting it cleaned up and seeing how it feels. Well, the first thing I want to look at is this paper bale was not straight. One side, this side was up higher, and this side on the other side was touching. And also the hinge points for the paper bale, this one was up higher, whereas on the left side, this one was down below this paper guide. So I had to go around behind the machine and I had to adjust these guides here. So this is underneath the left side of the paper bale, looking from the back, and it is this bracket with 2 screws, and there's a hook shaped piece that protrudes down and grabs this shiny little bar. Well, this hook was bent, so the bar was actually slipped out from underneath the hook, and it was sitting down below here, causing this left side of the paper bale to be too low. So I had to take this bracket out, reform this, and put it back in the right position, and then get these 2 screws adjusted, get the bracket adjusted at the right height. But now that I made that adjustment, the paper bale is nice and straight. It's parallel now with the edge of the paper scale. I straightened up the tension release lever. It was bent over forward, and so these rollers are now touching on the platen like they should be. So now I'm going to continue, now I'm going to start cleaning it up. So the next thing I did after straightening the paper bale area is I wanted to blow a lot of the dust and debris out. It looked like there's a lot of grease around the middle of the segment, but the rest of it is mainly just dust and debris, and so I wanted to use my air compressor. So when you're using an air compressor, the thing is, you either have to turn the pressure down on the pump so you don't have too much pressure, or you have to kind of feather the throttle so that you don't want to blow full force in these typewriters, because when you do that, you could blow a little spring or some little part loose, especially springs that are just held on there by hooks. They're hooked onto on either end, and if you blow air too fast, you could dislodge one of those delicate parts. So just be careful when you're blowing with an air compressor. Kind of use a delicate little touch on it. Okay, I've taken the liberty of removing the bottom panel with these 4 screws, and then removing the entire bottom of the case. So I suppose I should talk about how I went about cleaning the segment in these areas here that were really dirty. I'm using several things. I'm using cotton buds, which are good for getting the general grime out, but do keep in mind that they can leave little strands of cotton fibers behind. So you have to be careful of those. And then I'm using these synthetic mascara brushes. You buy these at beauty supply shops, and the nice thing about them is they have a little wire that you can bend these things and get a nice angle, and you can get down into these little crevices between the type bars and underneath here in the linkages. And then you wipe it with a cloth, a paper towel or whatever, and then you can flush some more isopropyl alcohol on it and continue cleaning. So I am using 91% isopropyl alcohol in a little squeeze bottle. I wet the cotton buds with the mascara brush. And then for bigger jobs, I'm using an old toothbrush. Also, I'll put alcohol on that, and I can get underneath here and get these get all the debris and the old grease out of these joints here, and then you of course wipe the grease off and clean it, and then put some more alcohol on. But just be aware that these old toothbrushes, the little bristles will start to crack and flake off due to the alcohol and their age, and it can leave little plastic bristles inside the machine. So just be aware if you're using a used toothbrush to be conscious of that. And then besides isopropyl alcohol, I'm also using, actually right here, I'm using naphtha, which is in this case Zippo lighter fluid. It's a really, really light oil, and I'm penetrating into these crevices after I clean them with alcohol. And then I'm also using a little bit of this Tri-Flow. This is basically a firearms gun, kind of Teflon or PTFE lubricated synthetic lubricant that seems to work pretty good. So I've gone ahead and I've reinstalled the paper support here in the front, held on by these two screws, and there's these two little flanges for the ribbon vibrator that the ribbon vibrator rides into these two little flanges that are part of that front support. So with the keyboard in the shifted position, I'll be able to do fine-tuning adjustments to these two screws to align this support later on. And then right now I'm going to reinstall this striker plate. And the thing about the striker plate is it is held into position by these two pins, these two locating pins. So by getting this nice and clean back here and getting it aligned on the pins properly and torqued down, there should be no alignment problems. Hopefully this is a pretty beefy piece of metal. Now, as for cleaning the type slugs, what I started doing was using one of these mascara brushes and some alcohol. I began to scrub the faces of them and wiping off the excess ink just to see what I have, and I'm able to clean off the main face of the type slug on all these pretty easily. They weren't really caked up too badly with dirt, but in a lot of the little loops and crevices of the actual letters themselves, there still is some embedded ink. And so what I'm going to do is, I have some of these long wooden sticks. They're kind of longer than toothpicks. They're like short little skewers, probably for skewering food or something. Anyways, I'm going to pick in there and try to pick out all the residual ink and built up dirt and try to get these characters nice and clean. Well, this was a fun project. I did not expect to be doing this today, to having found a typewriter and take it home, service it, and kind of demonstrate on video how that's done. I was especially surprised that it was a Facit 1620. I haven't seen this brand at all in my hometown before. I haven't been going to the thrift stores all that often lately. And the part of town that I went to up on Wantabo Boulevard on the east side of Albuquerque has a couple thrift stores. There's a couple Goodwills and one or two other stores. And I went in one of these other independent thrift stores that I hadn't been to in a long, long time. And the guy said they had two typewriters this last week, and this was the one that was left. I don't know what kind of other typewriter there was. So I might be on the lookout again and visit this same typewriter shop again to see if they have more stuff in the future. But Swedish-made typewriter, Facit 1620. I was really impressed with the build quality. The panels, all the ribbon cover and all upper and lower, they're all thick, heavy aluminum alloy, cast aluminum alloy. So it's not a thin sheet metal kind of feel to it. It's very sturdy. The quality of the imprint is really good. This is probably one of the best machines in my collection. It is just dead straight, even. The letters print even. Alignment vertically and horizontally is fine. I haven't seen any kind of a hint of an escapement problem or a spacing problem. We have the little bent pieces up here in the carriage early on that I had to fix. But other than that, it's been a really sturdy typewriter. I cleaned it thoroughly in and out, re-greased some of the linkages and everything and the re-lubed areas. It comes apart and goes back together pretty straightforward. I didn't tear down the whole carriage assembly, but I don't think I needed to. It looks like it cleaned up pretty well. As far as the sound of the typewriter, it's not as quiet maybe as a Hermes 3000. It has a slight mechanical clankiness to it, and that might be due to things like maybe this lid, right? it sounds like if I could do something with the spring down in here or put a little cushion in there with foam and quieten that lid down from vibrating, it might make this thing sound a little quieter. As far as the quality of the imprint, the sound of the imprint, it's a little loud, indicating perhaps the platen is getting a little hard, but you know, it looks to me like the rubber on that platen is pretty good. All the rubber on this machine was great, even the little bottom washers, rubber washers on the bottom screws, everything looked really good. As far as the feel of the machine, it feels a lot like a late model Olympia SM9. It has just a slight little bit of play in the keys like an SM9 would, not that tightness of a Hermes 3000, but you know, it's way up there. This is at least as good as I would say as a late model SM9 in terms of the feel of it, certainly the typing quality. It probably actually feels a little bit better than the one SM9 that I have, which is a wide carriage late model. I think this feels better. It types really beautifully. I like the size of it, a compact size. I like the unique features, having the dual tabs, the one here where it's set every 10 spaces and the one here where you can set them anywhere you want. It has the button on the left carriage knob where you can adjust the vertical centering, and then there's another adjustment here, a lever where you can decenter it temporarily and then go back to your original centering. Yeah, I think I like all the features to it. I probably didn't show you the paper support that just flips up here like that, and both of them flip up like that and flip down like that. It's very cool, very elegant, nicely done. But it's really a great machine, and I'm really pleased to have found it. So even the carrying case is really a cool carrying case. I like the way it snaps together like a clamshell and has a big handle, an integral handle. So this is going to be an easy machine to carry, and it protects the machine really well in its case. So I can see this is a travel typewriter. So as a little addenda to the video, I wanted to say that after I finished shooting the main part of the footage of the video, I took the typewriter out to my front porch and typed up a little blog article for the blog. And so it's a really nice, dark quality of imprint, nice type style. But one of the impressions I had about this machine after having used it a little bit more and typed a whole page with it is the carriage return on this machine is so smooth. I didn't really cover that very well earlier, but it has this tubular, there is a tubular bearing race right here. This tube that has bearings inside of it. That's what the carriage rides on. And the carriage return is so absolutely smooth. It's unbelievably smooth how good it is. You do a carriage return and it's just so nice. It's the smoothest carriage return that I've experienced on any of my machines. So again, I'm impressed more and more with this every time I use it. And I'll have this blog article up here this evening probably also. Well, until next time, this is Joe Van Cleve with another episode of the Typewriter video series. You have yourselves a great day.